What's up, y'all? This is your girl, Namia Carnice, with another edition of She is Namia's High Heels and Lipstick Conversations, where we have topics for the mature woman, the grown-ass woman, the seasoned woman, from every walk of life. We aim to uplift, empower, educate, and encourage the woman within, mind, body, and spirit. So let's get to it, y'all. It's High Heels and Lipstick Conversations with your girl, Namia. Come on and tap in. Come on in, y'all. Come on into the room. Groove with me a little bit. Listen, I gotta get the music right. Let me get this right.
Power on. Bluetooth setup. Switching. Bluetooth device is connected.
All right, I got it right for y'all. Y'all know I like to set the mood. Come on into the room. It is your girl, Namia Carnice, with another episode of High Heels and Lipstick Conversation. Come on in and groove with me.
I ain't sticking around. You just wanna play with my heart and steam with the girl in the car. You think I'm just gonna stand on back and watch you off on the time when I want to pass. I guess I'm unloyal, baby. I guess I'm untrue. I guess I'm unloyal, baby.
If you are checking in, I need you to let me know that you're here and put some kissy lips in the chat, some high heels in the chat, some lipsticks in the chat. We got a good conversation for y'all tonight. Listen, you don't want to miss. So I need you to let me know that you are here on this evening. I see some people that came in the room. Let me know that you are here on this evening.
Yes, you don't know me. Yes, you don't know me.
That is what's up, Erica. Thank you. Listen, if you are checking in, I need you to share this live right now. I need you to like, love, share this live to your page. It's getting ready to be some heavy conversation tonight, and I don't want nobody to miss it. I got a gang of ladies with me on this evening. And I'm just setting the mood right now.
So you can come and pick up your sheet.
As always, I need like a glass of
Sliding your doggy bag, bitch, you done with that. Tell me how a grown man so childish. Always think I've been samples. You think I'm just gonna stand on back and watch you waste my time into big time.
In my former life, I was a singer. All right, y'all. Thank y'all for stopping in on this evening. Listen, I need you to let me know that you are here. We got some good conversation for you on this evening. I got some ladies stopping by. I got a gang of ladies tonight that's going to weigh in on tonight's topic. We are talking about the Black man's guide to understanding a Black woman. I'm going to tell you what that's all about in a minute. But I need you to check in with me. I need you to like, share, love this live, share it to your own page, and support your girl. So as I do every week before I go live, I always share a little bit about what High Heels and Lipstick Conversation is all about. If this is your first time checking in, you just want to know what we're about. I know there are some people that on tonight that will be supporting the ladies in this conversation on tonight. And so simply put, High Heels and Lipstick in Conversation is all about a mindset, right? So those of us who wear high heels and lipstick, we may not literally wear high heels all the time anymore, but it really just represents grown woman, grown folk conversation. We don't leave our brothers out. Our brothers are welcome here. In fact, I hope we get some brothers tonight that will share in the conversation on this evening, because I think it's a very important, a necessary conversation. And so I'm just looking forward to having you ladies. So again, High Heel and Lipstick Conversation is all about just grown folk conversation, real classy, real bossy, conversations that hopefully will change you, challenge you, make you think a little bit, all that wrapped into one High Heels and Lipstick Conversation. So listen, before I bring my ladies on this evening, I always have to put a disclaimer, because we are here, I am here, I say this every week, I'm here just representing my own thoughts and my own opinions, okay? These are all the opinions of She is Namia, and I'm not here representing any organization that I'm affiliated, any organization that I may work for, that I have been a part of, present, past, or future. These are all my thoughts and opinions, and I say that on behalf of the other ladies, right? So when they come on board and we get into some hot and heavy conversation, this is truly about conversation from their perspective, from their thoughts and their opinions on tonight. Okay. So that being said, listen, before we get into the conversation, do y'all have my book? Okay. If y'all don't have the book, I need y'all to really go and get the book. You can visit my website. You can go to Amazon and purchase the book. It's called 7 Lessons for Her. And it's all about healing, empowerment, and restoration. There is something in this for any woman young lady who has experienced life, and now she is just trying to learn and grow and gain wisdom from what she has experienced. Last week when I talked to you, I talked about just being a woman of wisdom, and wisdom is probably one of the most powerful tools that any woman can possess and have in her possession. And so it's a lot of wisdom in this book. If this book is not for you and you like, you know what, Namia, I got myself together. I don't need those words of wisdom. I don't need to learn about, forgiveness and letting go of past pain and overcoming trauma. Then it might not be for you. It might be for your niece. It might be for your daughter. It might be for your sister. It might be for your mother. It might be from whomever, but I will appreciate your support. Going to my website, namiacarnice.com. You can link to the book and purchase the book directly from my website. You can go to Amazon and purchase the book. There's some good stuff in here. Pretty soon I'm going to be doing like behind the scenes. This won't be for public consumption, but just a book club, and we could talk about gathering some ladies and talking about some of the concepts that are contained in this book. But I'm a first-time author. This is Namia Carnice, and you can go to namiacarnice.com and get the book. Okay. Now, woman else. Okay, listen. Before I go into any conversation, I always, I talk about some stuff that is current. I see a few folks checking in. If you are checking in, please let me know that you are here by putting, let me know in the chat that you are here. You can put some kissy lips, some high heels. If you're a brother, you don't want to put no kissy lips and no high heels, you can, put some fists ups in the air, some arms, and let me know that you are checking in and you are ready to be a part of tonight's conversation. So that being said, listen, I always start every conversation with just some things, some observations that I make, okay, about the world around me. So I don't always like to focus on celebrity, but sometimes it just creates for me, it just creates good conversation. So one of the things that I noticed, or that I don't even know if it's necessarily been trending, but I have seen some commentary on it. But our girl Sierra, listen, some months ago, she got so much flack for the dress that she wore to the Grammys. And how could our husband allow her to wear that dress to the Grammys and it was see through? Where our girl, Miss Sierra, that's married to Russell Simmons, is now pregnant. Okay. If you do the math, baby, it is clear that Grammy night, Russell was feeling the dress that she wore because she popped out maybe like a week ago and shared her good news that she is with child. So it looks like her and Russell are good. It looks like they're all good. So you know a lot of folks place a lot of emphasis on other folks' marriages. They try to call him a simp, all this, but it looks like what did I say? Russell Williams, Russell Wilson. Yes, it looks like they're good. Him and Sierra are good. So I just wish people would leave their marriage alone. I wish they would leave Russell alone, allow him to do him. It is obvious that he loves his wife. It's obvious that he is giving her the goods and she's giving it back. Otherwise, she wouldn't have announced her pregnancy. It looks like they're good. Leave them alone. Quit trying to make Russell out to be a simp. Listen, he's getting it in. Him and Sierra is getting it in. So allow them to get it in the way that married folks get it in. Okay. Stay out their marriage. Stay out of married folks' business. Okay. The other thing that I wanted to address, this has been trending in the media a lot lately, and I'm only mentioning her because a lot of us ladies were big fans of her, or are big fans of her. We and there were some ladies that didn't agree with her, but our girl Lizzo, listen, if you haven't heard, obviously you've been under a rock somewhere, but she is being sued for creating a hostile work environment. There have been allegations against her that she made some of her dancers, do these like sexual acts when they were out and about. And then also that she fat shamed one of her dancers. And so, uh, what do I think about that? I think um, Lizzo had a lot of fans, or has a lot of female followers and fans, and we appreciated her for her body positivity. But there's a part of me that believes some of these stories. It's been said that she has an attitude, that she's rude, that she's not, good to work with. And so hopefully, if nothing else, I hope that this is a lesson to Lizzo. I hope it turns out for good. I hope the allegations turn out to be false. We got to allow that process to play out. But more power to Lizzo. There's a lot of ladies who are falling back from Lizzo in the promotion of her and her body positivity, especially the fact that she would fat shame one of her, dancers. And so I hope things work out for her, but I kind of believe it. What do y'all think? Y'all kind of believe Lizzo is difficult to work with? I don't know. I kind of believe it. I think she got a little arrogant. Okay. And sometimes one of the worst things we as ladies can take on is arrogance and overconfident and not being humble. So just like it's important for us to operate in wisdom, it's also important for us to, operate in humility. That don't mean that we can't be confident, we can't be feeling ourselves and all that, but sometimes you gotta be humble. And so this may be a lesson for Lizzo that she is getting about humility. Okay. All right, y'all. I see some folks that came into the room. I see some folks that checked in. Please share, like, and love. If you are in the chat, let me know that you are here. We're getting ready to have some conversation. Look, I have some ladies backstage that are waiting to be a part of this conversation that we're going to have. And I labeled this conversation on tonight, "The Black Man's Guide to Understanding a Black Woman." just because there's a lot of dynamics to Black men understanding Black women. There are a lot of gender wars that kind of happen. It seems like there's always this attempt to attack Black women in particular. And so I thought, this is an important conversation for us to have. Thank you for checking in, Raynard Robinson. I appreciate you, brother, on this evening for checking in. And hopefully you will be a part of this conversation on tonight. But I thought it was an important conversation to have, and I'm going to preface this conversation before I leave the ladies in with a little preface of this book. Okay, let me see if I can put it up there. So this book is called, you may not be able to see that, but this book is called The Black Man's Guide to Understanding the Black Woman. Okay, and the author, her name is Shahrazad Ali. This book was written and published in 1989. It started to make waves in the early 90s. This author, and let me just show you a picture of her. This is probably a few years old, but you may or may not remember her. This book had a lot of controversy, right? And so in the 90s, she was on places like Oprah and Montel Williams, and she made, rounds with the content that's in this book. She got a lot of pushback from Black women in particular because it kind of calls Black women out and blames some of what we experience as a society on Black women, and it really dissects Black women. And she talks about these types of Black women and our defiance and so on and so forth. So quite naturally, it was a hit with Black men. Okay. But a lot of Black women found it to be, kind of demeaning. So I'm gonna read because y'all know I like to read. I like books, so on and so forth. So I'm gonna just read this little excerpt, and then we're gonna bring the ladies in, and we're gonna start into some conversation. So, The Black Man's Guide to Understanding the Black Woman is the culmination of many years of study, observation, and research. It is a forerunner, the first book of its kind to realistically detail the problems between the Black man and the Black woman in America. It is designed to enlighten the Black man and create a revolution of positive change in Black relationships. The major category addressed in Black women's is the Black woman's emotional insecurity and related fears and how they contribute to the problem. So listen. I got a couple more excerpts that I'll read at some point throughout the night. This is not a promotion of the book, but if you want to go get it, obviously you can go find it. It's called The Black Man's Guide to Understanding the Black Woman. But I got some ladies. Hey, Nicole, Nika, thank you for checking in on this evening. I got some ladies that got some shit to say tonight, and we're going to talk about it. So I'm going to bring these ladies up. I'm going to allow them to introduce themselves, and then we're going to get into some conversation on this evening. Hello, ladies. Hello. How are you this evening? So listen, so I got my girl Kim, I got Lativia, I got Gina, I got Gigi here on tonight. The one thing that I know about all these ladies, we've already had the preliminary conversation. So the one thing that I know about all these ladies is they have expressed opinions and thoughts about our topic on tonight. They're all articulate. They ain't afraid to say what they're going to say. And so I'm going to start with my girl Kim. Come on off mute and introduce yourself, and then we will go around. Lativia, Gigi, Gina, tell us a little bit about yourself and why tonight's topic is important to you.
Good evening, everyone. So, as introduced, my name is Kim. I am happily divorced. I am the mother of one. My daughter is a recent college graduate. As far as my background, it has been in law enforcement for over 20 years now. I was a probation officer as well as a federal agent. where I work violent crimes in Detroit as well as Chicago. And this topic was of great interest to me because I've been in a number of debates when it comes to Black women, Black men, relationships, and the fact that oftentimes both sides, I believe, are misunderstood. So I'm definitely looking forward to this conversation. And I will give this disclaimer, as I always do. I apologize if anybody is offended by anything that I say, but trust and believe you will get over it.
Thank you, Kim, for introducing yourself. I am going to pass the mic to my girl, Lativia. Please introduce yourself.
Hey, I'm Lativia, LT for short. I am a nurse by profession. Spent about the last near 30 years in healthcare with 20 plus years in executive leadership. And this topic is of particular importance to me because I've been married a couple of times, and currently my current husband, we've been together for over 10 years, married for 10 years this coming December, but together for a little longer than that. And when I was first introduced to the book, there were so many things that resonated with me. I can't say that I endorse the author in any way, but I could certainly see some points, and there were some things that were very valid that stood out to me as a woman who was raised in a very matriarchal heavy family and not really having male examples to look to or healthy examples of marriage and the family dynamic and womanhood and building Black men up. So it was something that, I was like, And in terms of disclaimers, I'm just here to share my thoughts and my opinion. They are my own. I'm not here to encourage or discourage anybody or sway any person in any particular direction. But the truth is the truth.
Right. Yeah. Absolutely. The truth is the truth. The truth is the truth. So we're going to pass the mic to Gina. Gina, please introduce yourself to the High Heels and Lipstick Conversation audience.
Hello, everyone. I'm Gina. I am a mother of three. I am a chemist by profession. This topic really resonated with me because my parents are still married, and I have been married for 9 years this year. And I got a lot from just what did I learn from my mother? And so that's why it resonated with me. And I also feel like Black women are not a monolith. Like, we are dynamic creatures, and, we'll get into that.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Thank you, Gina. And last but not least, we may have another young lady to pop in on us, but last but not least, let me introduce you to, and I know she got something to say. Listen, I've been knowing Gigi for a few years now, honey, and she don't bite her tongue. But let me introduce you to Gigi.
All right. Well, hello, everyone. My name is Gigi, and I've been married for 10 years, but I've been in a relationship with my kid's dad for 20. I'm a mother of two daughters, one in college and one is a junior in high school. And I think being a mother of two daughters, very different personality girls, that's what made this topic so interesting to me, just because my daughters are navigating the dating world. And eventually, I hope that they will settle down. And the dating world is definitely very different now than it was 20 years ago. So understanding the topics that are going on, things that our young people are hearing, it's very frustrating. And it kind of changes the advice that you would give a young lady compared to maybe the advice I got back in the 80s and early 90s, versus, advice that my mentors got when they were young, in the 70s. I think things have changed. And so that, I think, really helps with this particular conversation and how we feel as different types of women, of Black women, how things have changed out there.
Thank you, Gigi. Absolutely, absolutely. So listen, um, you made a good point, Gigi, and we're going to go right into just kind of talking about one of the things that the book talks about is the mother daughter relationship and how the mother is often the first teacher to our daughters. Okay, so again, this book is all about Black women and some of the ails and the things that um, we do to contribute to the fall of the Black family, so on and so forth. Listen, Reynard said he going to get that book. Okay, he's going to get he gonna need that book. Okay, brother Reynard. And so again, one of like the book kind of starts off talking about that mother and daughter relationship. So my first thought in that regard is, what are you ladies' thoughts? And anybody can jump in, and we will just kind of round robin and just have a conversation for a little bit here about what society, what women, what mothers are teaching our young women today, our young ladies today. What is your perspective? Gigi said it's so 2023 is so different from when we were younger, when we were raised in the 80s, the 90s, the early 2000s. So the conversation has to be a little bit different. Even this book, we talked last night that some of the language, some of the concepts are kind of antiquated because it's a different time, right? Social media is all the rave. The music is different. We in the last 3 or 4 years, we've seen like this uptick of female hip hop artists, and the music that they're putting out has changed. So let me just start by going into that conversation. What do you feel about what is being taught to our young girls today? How is it different from what your mother or the women in your lives taught you as a young woman? And that's to anybody. Kim, you want to kick us off?
I will start this off. It seems today respect is absent just completely. And when it comes to the mother daughter dynamic, it seems that far too many mothers are trying to be friends to their children, specifically their daughters, and not being mothers. They're not being role models. They're not being mindful of the things that they say and do. And I believe that your kids are always watching you. They're watching you, they're hearing you, even when they're little, about what it is that you expose your children to and what you say. You have to.
Kim, I think we're getting a little pause from you, maybe your Wi-Fi a little bit.
Who can't say their alphabet, but they can rap Cardi B's songs forward and backward.
Mm-hmm.
And it's really sad. And a lot of times women, again, aren't being a good example. When they're dating, for example, anytime there's a revolving door and every other month mom has a new boyfriend and the kids grow up seeing this, they think that that's okay. And they think that that's the way it's supposed to be. So a lot of the dysfunction that we see today, in my opinion, I attribute that to a lot of the upbringing and the lack of direction from the parents, specifically the mothers.
Yeah. So we talked about this last night, that our mothers are getting much younger, right? And it's almost as if some of our mothers, our young mothers, are growing up with their young daughters, so that they're in that almost in the same generation. So you have these young mothers teaching these young girls, and in some ways almost failing them. You know, Lativia, what are your thoughts? We can just hop in there.
Certainly there's that dynamic of, moms not teaching their children properly. And you hit on the point of what did moms are getting younger. I go back to my grandmother probably had her first child when she was about 16. It was a different time, as I think Gigi pointed out. So I can't say that at that time, even though she was growing up with her children, that my aunts and uncles didn't grow up respecting authority or didn't grow up in a sound household. She was also married at the time. So I think generations definitely have a role to play in that. But children, women have been having births at young ages for
Yeah.
time period. So since the beginning of time.
Yes.
So it's I would say that is a factor, but also when we look at the impact of culture in society, and I think Kim pointed this out on how when she talked about kids being raised, and I think maybe this is something we talked about last night about what are examples and what are the kids seeing. Well, what did the young woman that is having a child see? So
Yeah.
how do we break that generational curse? What did she see? What was she taught? What were her examples? And so when I think about the mother, whatever age she is, what were the examples and the influences in her life that caused her to go in the direction that she went in with rearing her child? What positive images was she able to see, or did she not see, that impacted the way that she is rearing her child?
Absolutely. So Melanie says, what book? Melanie's just checking in with us. So we are talking about, if you are just checking in, we are talking about this book. Again, it is but it was published in 1989. It was very controversial at the time that it was released. The author, her name is Shahrazad Ali. It's called The Black Man's Guide to Understanding a Black Woman. So it's all of this conversation and commentary surrounding Black women and their experiences, and some of the ways that they have contributed to the failure of Black families, so on and so forth. So the reason why it was a lot of controversy back in the 90s, where it was published in 89, it really caught fire like early to mid 90s, is because it had a lot to say, or what people thought was negative perceptions about Black women. So again, we're not promoting the book. We're just talking about some of the concepts that are contained in the book. So again, one of the concepts of the book is this mother and daughter relationship, and the mother being the very first teacher of the children or their daughters in the home. And so Gina, what are your thoughts in that regard from your perspective? What do you feel that how is 2023 different from when we were younger?
Well, not only social media, but I feel like most women or just parents in general are allowing everything else to raise their kids.
Yeah.
Except for them. So not only are the mothers getting younger, the grandmothers are even younger. And remember, we all heard from Baby Boy, mama's got to have a life too.
Yeah.
That is still what's going on today. So we went from Queen Latifah, UNITY, to City Girls getting the bag, dropping it, and doing all this different stuff. And then you see young girls bending over, as young as 2, 3, 4 years old.
Yeah.
And they're growing up like that and singing the songs. And although some people, you see it on the internet, they think it's cute because the kids know the lyrics and all this different stuff. They're taping them, they're TikToking it, they're putting it out there. But then that same little girl most likely or probably will grow up and be a young mother herself.
Yeah. Yeah. And then what does she teach her young child? I made this point because we've said a lot about it just being a different society is teaching different things and culture. And I made this point last night that when I was young, what I saw of my mother, there was a period of time when my father was in the home, but then there was a period of time that he was not. He fell victim to drugs, addiction, and so on and so forth. And so obviously, quite naturally, the marriage between my mother and my father didn't last. I always knew that my father loved me. There were periods of time that I didn't see him. There was a period of time that I was resentful towards him. But the one thing that I saw from my mother is just be very strong, right? Like, again, and I've said this before, that my mother was the mother that she would move furniture, rearrange a whole room by herself, and didn't need help from anybody. And so, quite naturally, what I developed as a young woman is a very strong nature. Get it done, work hard, like work yourself to death almost, because I saw my mother work very hard to take care of me and my sister. And so, those attributes, those traits were passed down to me. And so, when you come into a relationship, you get married, sometimes you have to unlearn what you learned. And my mother was a hard worker. She did her best. And so this is not taking anything away from my mother, but sometimes you have to unlearn what you learned. Okay. Gigi, what are your thoughts? What are your
I think for me, I think let's go back to one of the earlier statements that you stated, which is Black women are not all the same. We're not monolith. So
yeah.
we've all been raised differently. So I think that there is a generation of people that we all know that trauma continues itself.
Mm-hmm.
So I think there is a group that that trauma has affected and they
Mm-hmm.
continue to pattern over and over and over again. I
Yeah.
think that, but then there's also this rising generation of middle class, socioeconomic class that we're working very hard to educate
Mm-hmm.
ourselves and educate our daughters.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and that also means arming them differently, arming them in
Yeah.
a way and training them in a way that um, expects more out of men because they've watched, like you, they've watched their mother work so hard to
Yeah.
provide them a good life, to provide them, to allow them to live in a neighborhood where they can get good education,
Yeah.
where they can, watch things and be able to create their own business and start their own business. And I think the problem is that this new sector of women is what is really affecting a lot of men
Yeah.
because this sector of women is exploding. And
Yeah.
I think there was a time, I mean, it's not like there's never been middle class and super upper class, the ones that we just don't touch. There's always been those people.
Yeah.
But this new kind of educated, very well dressed, well traveled women that still kind of carry that same type of trauma, but we kind of deal with it differently. We deal with it by kind of digging deeper into our education, into
Yeah.
raising our exposure at work.
Yeah.
We have a group of girlfriends that are in the same socioeconomic class as us, and
Yeah.
we travel and we do things. And I
Yeah.
think that that's the group that is getting a completely different message than what traditional women have been trained. And they're
Yeah.
also not getting that message of go out there and um, be half dressed, half naked. Like they have their moments, we all have
Yeah.
our moments where we're on vacation. We might be a little ratchet, but that's not our regular
Hey, listen.
everyday
Yeah.
how we carry
Yeah.
ourselves.
Yeah.
And yeah, I think that it's this group of women that are between the ages of like 55 to, 35, 27 that are just really frustrating men because
Yeah.
there's so many of us and they look up to us.
Yeah.
And the things that our parents are teaching us and the things that society is teaching us, that social media is teaching us, is really shifting um, how the dynamics of dating works and things that used to get a man by and slide that they could slide through doesn't work anymore because we are educated, because we do make our own money, because we have traveled, because we have a group of friends that keeps us occupied. So
Yeah.
it's not, the things that they think that they need to do just isn't, the things that they the basic level that they are used to doing isn't working anymore. So like for me, with my two daughters, I do raise them. I do emphasize the importance of setting boundaries.
Yeah.
Those were things that weren't taught to me when I was young.
Right.
I do make sure that they understand to express what they want out of a man early. I do talk to them, like my daughter in college right now. It's hard for her. And I
Yeah.
talk to her about understanding red flags and pointing,
Yeah.
not letting what a man says. So like a guy broke up with her and was like, "Oh, I think you're bringing me down." And I was like, "Oh, red flag. I don't need you to
Gaslighting.
continue to like chase after this dude, because
Right.
if he's blaming everything on you, that's on him. That's a reflection of his weaknesses. It's not you. You are the things you can work on. Absolutely. There's always things that we all can work on, but for him to put the whole onus of the relationship on you, that's a red flag. You need to watch that. She's 20, so she's learning, she's listening, kind of, but it kind of is a reflection of a different message that I received. I probably would, me at her age was chasing after guys, feeling like I needed to lower myself so I can be with them. Because those messages of not necessarily self-respect, like I was taught to have self-respect, but that next level of you, that person isn't right for you, understanding those key the red flags, understanding like my value, and those type of conversations, to me, that's newer, and it's really helping young women and even older women set stronger boundaries and not accept as much bullshit as before.
Yeah. So let's stick right there, okay? Because I like what you said. I like how you compartmentalize. There is a segment of young women who are heavily influenced by social media. So they're influenced by the Cardi B's. They're influenced by the, I don't know, who's the chick with the booty hole brown song. Like they're influenced by these rappers and social media and Instagram, so on and so forth. But then there are this segment of young ladies who, like you, Gigi, they're being taught set boundaries, pay attention to red flags, so on and so forth. And so, to be quite honest, if we could just be real and just take off our 9 to 5, that got some men pissed off right now, right? Okay, because we see a whole evolution of women who are going to get their education, who are putting relationships and love and marriage to the side. The Lori Harvey is one prime example of that. Like she done pissed a whole generation of men off because they can't understand how this beautiful young woman could flip the switch in such a way. Because we as women are not longer, there was a time, even biblically, that we would get married for our survival. Okay. We don't need marriage to survive anymore. That's not the case right now. What are your ladies' thoughts on that? This different segment of women that's like pissing a whole generation of men off to the point they got podcasts and everything, damn it. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like they pissed off for real. Well, what are your ladies' thoughts? Anybody, just jump in there.
Well, first off, when we talk about Cardi B, Megan Thee Stallion, all of these, they are giving these young girls mainly just false information. I mean, you hear a lot of these rap songs, and a lot of these women are singing about things that's not the life they live. But of course, that's what sells.
Right. They go home to a man at night. Right.
Cardi B has a husband, and right. And here it is. And what really saddens me with Megan Thee Stallion, of course, she's educated. Everybody knew she graduated from college, but that's not the image she's really put out there. She just got to be a thought all the time. Right. And it's just like, why not portray something that's positive? And then on the other hand, yes, more women are, educated, more women are independent. But at the same time, it's important to have a balance, because at the end of the day, a man wants to feel appreciated. He wants to feel needed. So you can't be that strong where you, and I hear a lot of women say, oh, I don't need a man, I can do this for myself, I can do that, and a lot of times they act as if they're superior because they have this education and they can make all of this money.
Oh yeah.
But at the same time, you have to understand the role, that the man is going to play. If you're going to have a relationship that is going to have, some substance to it,
Yeah.
you can't. And I was raised to be very independent. My mom, a lot of things I had to unlearn because my mother was one of those who, you can do bad all by yourself. You can take care of yourself. You don't need a man to do this. Never let the right hand know what the left hand is doing. And it's just a lot of things that I started to realize, you know what, that's just not, the way that it should be. And it's okay to be strong, and it's okay to also pay attention and know your red flags. But I think a lot of times women get into relationships and they've not healed from prior relationships. And so you go in with this baggage and you have this preconceived notion that because what this person did, the other person is, going to do. So a lot of times, and I think men get frustrated because the new guy is having to suffer the consequences for what the old guy did.
Yeah.
So
I have a
traumas. Go ahead.
I have a story of like that. So we do teach our young girls be independent. They out here singing Boosie and Webby. They out here singing it. When I was in high school, I was one of a few Black cheerleaders, and one girl in high school would go visit her boyfriend in California. Now, y'all know she wasn't Black.
Uh-huh.
But her mother was setting her up. And I'm not saying that it's right, because my mother would have never, but she would go on vacations with him and his family, and she was learning to live a soft life back then. And that's before it became a big old thing, or self-love, or all this stuff. This was back when I was in high school.
Yeah.
That she would be going. And I guarantee her mother was not saying, girl, you don't need no man. You don't need this. You don't need that. I guarantee her mother was saying, girl, go get that man. Take care of me. Take care of your grandmother later on. Because now she may be on her second husband, but her second husband is even a marry up. Okay. And I'm not saying that we should be teaching our girls this or going to go get that bag, but we're giving them the wrong message of be independent. You don't need anyone.
Yeah.
Be independent. Yes, be able to take care of yourself, but still prepare yourself to become a wife if that's something that you want later on. Not just shut it off and close it down.
Here's my problem.
Go ahead, Gigi.
Sorry. I think my problem though is you got young men out here. I can't tell you how many times my car has died and I've asked the dude, can you jump my car? And these Negroes don't even know how to use a jumper cable. They don't even keep a fucking jumper cable in their car. Like they don't know how to change a tire. They don't know how to jump a car. They don't know that I should not be out here. Like they don't even know to get how many times have we seen those memes about dudes sitting in a car while their woman is pumping gas? Like
I would never.
As simple as that. I mean, it's so small and so simple, but I think the thing, and Namia knows, I battle men online about this. Stop looking at us Black women like we failed, because if you don't look at the men and ask the uncles and the fathers and all, and don't keep telling me, well, I was, the 3 strikes rule of the 80s and the drugs. Some of y'all weren't all locked up. Not everybody was locked up. Some those of you who were locked up, where the hell was your family? Like they knew you had kids. Why didn't they step in? Why didn't your brother, your uncle, somebody step in because they knew you had a child? Did they know you have a child? Maybe you kept it from everybody. Maybe you're a Rolling Stone. But the problem is now my kids are out here dating young men who can't even freaking change a tire, who don't even know how to pump gas because nobody's ever taught them how to pump gas.
But
Um,
they're expected to be soft, right? Like they're
right. So how
expected
do
to
I be soft if I'm, how do I teach my daughter it's okay to be soft when there's not a plethora of young Black men out there who have been raised to just understand the basics of how to take care of a woman, of a household, of just that,
yeah,
just that, So I don't think we, I don't think all of us want to, be that tough. I'm pretty sure almost all of us would love to live that soft life. I mean, we've had the opportunity being my age. I've spent enough hours sitting in front of the TV watching Robin, whatever his name is, talking about the life of the rich and famous back in the early 90s.
right,
There wasn't shit else to watch on TV. So you just watch that and you're like, ooh. And then as we got older, you had MTV and you got to see everybody having these splashy Sweet 16 birthday parties and all that stuff. So you had a lot of social media telling you this is what the soft life could be like. This is what you can have if you have money. But the reality is, yes, being latchkey kids cost us dearly.
yeah,
Yes, having parents that wanted to move out into the suburbs and give us stuff cost us dearly. Having that mom that worked really hard so they could move us out into the suburbs meant that there were people that just weren't available to raise young men so that
yeah,
our daughters, so that even older versions of ourselves, of our younger selves, who we are now, that we can live the soft life, that we can expect that.
yeah.
We can.
I tend to look at that as a evolution of where we've arrived at that place because of the evolution, right? And so we talked a little bit about this last night, how the impact of something such as like mass incarceration. So no, we don't want to place blame on men because not all of them were locked up or what have you. But there is something to be said about the impact to not only Black men, but also Black women. So at the same time as all of our Black men were being locked up due to mass incarceration, you have a bunch of homes that now is led by single mothers. And so we oftentimes, especially when we get into like this back and forth in the gender wars, we don't want to look at the fact that yes, Black men, you were impacted, but we were impacted too. So you got a bunch of single mothers leading the homes with even their sons, and the woman can't show that young man how to be a man. And
Yeah.
so they learn from what they see outside of the home. It's the drug dealers, it's the gang bangers, it's the pimps, it's whomever, and that is their picture of manhood. So you have those young men who were raised up, and they saw that as the image of manhood. And now they either have podcasts because they lived in a home with a single mama and they themselves don't know manhood, trying to teach these young men what it means to be a man, and the perception is skewed, the image is skewed, is extreme in a lot of cases. And so I think it's just an evolution, and often we don't recognize individually that we both collectively were impacted by some of the things that we experience as a community of people.
Absolutely. And I think the other point, usually Father's Day,
Yeah,
all of us are on Facebook, and it drives me nuts when women want to be recognized
for
for
Father's Day.
Father's
Yeah,
Day. Women say, I'm mama and daddy. No, you're not. You cannot be. And I
yeah,
think it's a lot of the problem, with what Gigi mentioned. A lot of these young men don't know because they did not have, men to teach them. As a mother, you cannot teach a boy how to be a man, just as a
right.
man can't teach his daughter how to be a woman. And I will be so happy when people stop that nonsense,
Yeah,
and even stop fooling themselves and thinking, I don't. my child doesn't need their father. I'm mom and daddy. I can do. No, that's a lot. And that is a big part of what the problem is in our society today.
I think that as we're talking about things, I'm kind of grinning a little bit because just by Kim's statement and what Gigi was stating, if we go back to the book, even though it was written 30 years ago, she speaks about some of these things in terms of how we as women, as Black women, perpetuate some of these cycles and stereotypes. She talks about the mass incarceration. She talks about the effects of drugs. And one of the things, and again, not to promote or to support her in any way, she doesn't say anywhere in her book, while I don't agree with all of her rhetoric, she doesn't say anywhere in her book that a Black woman should support just any kind of Black man. Right. Or that a Black woman should, if he's no good or beating you and all of this stuff, or he's a big cheater, that you should still stay with him. What she talks about is ownership of the Black woman, of your thoughts, your attitudes, your words and actions, and how they negatively impact the Black man. I know you were probably pulling up Sora Shantae's statement because you wanted to say something about it. So I'm going to be quiet because you put it on the screen and I love what she says.
No. Yeah, so Shantae says living a soft life doesn't mean we give up our independence, which is so true. Like so that's what I had to unlearn, right? And myself, because like I said last night, I've been single. I was single longer than I've been married. So some things I had to unlearn. But she says, I think many of us Black women feel like we're giving up something when we choose something other than I can do it myself, right? Or we just become so accustomed to doing it ourselves, or being in control of getting it done, and that patience wears thin, or we don't, we have to learn patience once we get into a relationship with a real man, okay? And I ain't talking about just any kind of man, but a man that kind of makes you put a mirror to yourself and you realize, you know what, maybe I learned some things that's not going to work great for this relationship if I don't adjust myself. And so I'll be the first to admit that I had to do that for myself, even in marriage.
One more point, just because Gigi brought it out, in terms of a lot of Black men don't know how to do a lot of things. We're never taught, don't know how to change a tire, don't know how to take care of a household. Unfortunately, that is a truth. They don't know because they were never taught. However, I found in my marriage to my husband, that's a reality that I walked into when I knowingly and openly accepted this man, even though he had a father in his home. I realized as we navigated life together that there were some things he just didn't know. He just didn't know. And so how do I then turn around and say, okay, how do we work through this? How do I support you? What do we need to learn? Now we got Google, because we didn't have all this internet stuff back in the day. But what do we need to Google about these gutters so that we don't get another ice dam and have a leaky roof? Rather than the reality is I probably would have heard my mama say, that don't make no damn sense. You don't even know how to fix a roof. You got the roof leaking. That's a fact. And that's something that I would have heard versus saying, you know what, babe, the roof is leaking. I'm not sure what's happening, and looks like you don't know either. So how can I help you? What do you need from me to support you as you get it fixed?
Yeah, absolutely. What are the thoughts we have on that? One of the things, we'll kind of skip to another topic, but one of the things that the book mentions is these 4 types of women. I know we talked about that a little bit last night, but and she gives like a grand explanation of each of these types of women, and she says that there's the low-life Black woman, and these are the women that have been subjected to multi-generational poverty and illiteracy and shame as a child. Maybe she's had some trauma that she has yet to overcome. There may be molestation or rape or some instances of that kind of trauma in her life, and she tags them as low-life Black women. That's interesting to me. Then she has the average woman, and this woman is, she says, is an enigma somewhat. She surfaces as a steady employee. She enjoys weddings and birthdays and makes big preparations for both. She is neat, probably goes to church regularly. She fixes her hair nicely and speaks coherently. So she talks about these women. She terms them, but then she talks about some of the ways where they add to kind of the broken relationships with Black men. She talks about the high class woman. So this is the lady that likes to travel. Maybe in her definition, we on this, on this podcast, and I might be labeled as high class woman, but this woman likes to travel. She's career oriented. She likes the health spot. She works out. She does all of these things. And then there is this, what is called the African traditional woman, who puts out this perception of that she's, down for the people, so on and so forth. And so she talks about their pros, but also their cons. And then she goes into this dialogue about why some of these women don't make good wives, and then what in turn makes a good wife. My question to you ladies is, from your perception, I know that we have married ladies here, we have divorced ladies, but you were still a wife at some time. From your perspective, what do you think makes a good wife? Anybody?
All right, I'll go ahead and jump in on this one. What makes a good wife? Number one, respect is always at the top of my list. You have to be able to communicate. You need to be attentive. You cannot be selfish. You need to know how to compromise. And you also need to know how to support and encourage the person that you're with. A lot of times, and no relationship is perfect. I don't care how long you've been married or how long you know a person, but you also have to learn how to pick your battles. That's one thing that I learned. You can't nag all the time. You can't complain. You have to pick your battles. And whenever there is a problem, that problem should stay within your relationship and within your household. You can have a knockout, drag out fight as far as an argument. Of course, I'm not talking about anything physical, but you can have this intense argument. But the moment you walk out your door, if you're going to an event, with your husband, nobody in that event should know that you guys had a knockout, drag out fight. And under no circumstances should you ever embarrass the person that you're with publicly. You should always support them. You never put them down, even if they upset you. Again, you wait until you get home and you have that conversation. And oftentimes people are so busy hooping and hollering and yelling and trying to get their point across that they're not listening. You can't do more talking than you do listening, because otherwise it's going to get to a point where both of you, this is all you see. Nobody's hearing anything and you're not accomplishing anything. My last point, if you're upset and you don't believe you can have a productive conversation, stop talking at that point. Wait until you're able to calm down and you can have a conversation where you can have effective communication, where you can listen and you can also hear each other. That's all in a nutshell as far as I'm concerned.
Kim, that's one thing that my mom always told me, is that I like such and such and they like such and such for the time being. But if I run and tell them, any little thing that Raymond did or Cecil did or whatever, they're not going to like Raymond or Cecil no more. And then I'm going to be expecting them to still want Cecil or Raymond to come around. But everyone in my family or whomever, my friends, would be mad because they're only remembering all the bad things. They don't know all the good things that happen because I only come to them when it's the bad thing. So that's why when Kim talks about keeping it at home, you keep it at home because everyone else can't forgive like you do.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. So, what are your thoughts? And whomever wants to do, what makes a good wife, from your perspective? What makes a good wife? It's a loaded question. It's a
It
loaded
is
question.
a loaded question, and
It's
I was
loaded,
like,
and you really
Kim
can
is,
only answer
I
it from
think Kim
your
has covered so
experience.
much of it. It's like, what else do you add to that? Like
Right.
she ran down
You
the
broke it
gamut.
down, right? You got to
And it's funny.
compromise.
And the
And
only
it's
thing
funny
that I
because
would say that I would think to add to that is to be confident in yourself. You know,
Yeah,
before you can ask anybody else to love you, you got to love yourself. Unfortunately, what happens is we hear, you know, you complete me, and we're looking for somebody to fill a spot and a void in our life. That you got to be happy with you before you can expect anybody else to be happy with you. And so, if you want to be able to be in a loving relationship, you got to first love yourself
yeah,
in order to show love to the man in your life or the partner in your life. You gotta be confident in loving yourself. You gotta be whole. I know that we talked a lot about keeping things at home. I'm gonna say yes, and if you need to talk to somebody because it's not good to hold those things in, consider therapy or consider someone that you trust. Because it's not good to let things sit with you and fester or talk to your partner and maybe you feel like you're not getting through to your partner. You need to have an outlet. That's just something that I've learned over time that just for as a human being, you need to be healthy. You need to talk to somebody and make that. I don't mean go to Auntie Mim and like
yeah,
Gina said, go telling all your business, but consider something, a place, a healthy outlet for you to share your thoughts or be able to help collect your thoughts so you can talk to your partner. Communication is definitely key and a lot of patience and forgiveness. I think, you know, you got to keep an open mind. Remember that you're both two imperfect people
yeah,
coming together. And when we talk about, I think I posted this on my own Facebook page, what I consider to be normal or the right thing doesn't necessarily mean that it has to be the normal thing or the right thing to someone else. So be open. Definitely be prayerful, connect to your higher power, whatever that is. But you got to be, you know, be open and understand that neither one of you are perfect and learn to forgive. And if you decided to commit, do that. That means, just like you said in those vows, better or worse, richer or
right.
poor, in sickness and in health. It's not just when I'm feeling good today and because you made me happy and you did what I wanted you to do. Now we're good, but the minute that you displease me, I'm no longer happy with the relationship. So you got to be steadfast in it because it's going to be some ups and downs.
Yeah. Here's a couple things that she said in the book, and some of these I honestly like. I'm just read a few. I'm gonna read a few. Um, she said the following and again, she's talking to black men. These are the signs that black women will possibly make a good wife to a black man. She is attentive and a good listener. Kim said that. She enjoys going partying, but equally has a good time at home. So yeah, I know that's me. I like to have a good time, but there are times where I just absolutely want to be at home. She will have a strong spiritual commitment that will help her distinguish between right and wrong. She will be partially modest in style of dress. She will like babies and children and include them in her life. She enjoys cooking and preparing special meals or treats for the black man. Listen, we had a whole discussion about that last week and the fixing of plates. I don't know. Listen. I'm gonna tell you right now. I enjoy cooking, but there's some time that I absolutely not today. Y'all gonna fend for yourself today. So I think that's subjective. I don't know that we as wives always or we as women always enjoy cooking, but I get she's talking about nurturing a home. She has good hygiene. She doesn't wear a ton of makeup. She is proud of her man and claims him no matter who is present. I like that one because I am a proponent of making sure that you represent your man. That we are to be representatives of our man. Here's the other one that I like. I'm gonna skip around. Oh, where was it? Oh, she she is trustful and freely expresses her sexuality and desires when in private with her man. What y'all think about that? She expresses her sexuality freely with her man.
That's a plus.
That's a plus.
I think that's a plus. You know, I think it's good to have an open mind. Now, and of course, when you're married, obviously we talk about compromise. Now, I'm not a fan of, a person doing something that they're not comfortable with,
Right.
or something that they feel is bad. But I think it's good to have an open mind. So, if your spouse makes a suggestion or it's something that they want to try, if it's not something that you think is demeaning or something that's, going to be painful, I think, hey, be open to try it. But you also have to be open and honest as well, because I think we touched before on trauma. And in my career, I have encountered a lot of women, unfortunately, who have endured trauma, whether they'd been victims of domestic violence or whether they had been assaulted, whether it was physical or sexual. So I think it's very important when you talk about sex, it's important to be honest with your husband, or even before you even get married, that this is the person you're going to be with and you're engaged. It's important to have those conversations so they know. I mean, if it's something that you have endured as it relates to trauma when it comes to sex, if that's a trigger, a particular act is a trigger, that's something you need to communicate.
Yeah.
Because of course, if your husband doesn't know that that's something that something that happened to you that obviously wasn't pleasant, and they try it or ask about it and it triggers you and you get upset. Well, if they didn't know, they don't know. That's where that communication comes in, and that's why that's so important. And if you can't openly talk to the person that you are engaged to and definitely married to, there's a problem.
Yeah. The one thing that I think can sometimes be problematic about that one statement too is that so often, again, we talked earlier about the times are changing. Women no longer get married for survival anymore. But we still live in a patriarchal society. And so there's still that remnant of patriarchy where women are only viewed as sex objects or to be, albeit aside that there's a traditional way that some women nurture their home, but we have to be careful that women, in 2023, we should no longer be viewed as just somebody to hump on and hunch on and cook your food, okay, or just to have your babies. There's more that we should be viewed at in terms of bringing to the table. But we still live in that society where our rights, our thoughts, our opinions are still very much controlled, unfortunately. And so I appreciate some of the thoughts that she said in terms of what it takes to be a good wife, but I do see where some of the thoughts and opinions can be problematic in that they're rooted in patriarchy. They're rooted in some of those thoughts that have gotten us to where we are today, where our rights, abortion rights, our body rights, we have men dictating what we do with our bodies, and so on and so forth. Yeah. Shantae says, we got needs too. There's nothing that defiles the marriage bed. If you don't tell him, he won't know what pleases you. Absolutely. Don't lay there and suffer. You are never more one than when you are intimate. Absolutely. Any other thoughts, ladies, on what makes a good wife? This has been some good conversation. Listen, if you are in the chat, you have some thoughts, you have some questions you want to throw out there to the lady, please don't be shy. Throw those thoughts, throw those comments out there to the ladies, as we're almost an hour and a half in. So obviously it's been some good dialogue. Okay. Any other thoughts from ladies about what makes a good wife? what you agree with, maybe what you don't agree with the author.
I wanted to add something, if that's okay.
Yeah.
The other thing I forgot to mention, of course, as we get older, the chances of us, and I'm 45, chances of me meeting somebody and marrying someone who doesn't have kids is,
Yeah.
probably is not going to happen. So I think it's
Or
important.
grandkids at this point. Yeah.
So I think it's very important that if you're in a relationship with someone who has children, it's very important how you treat them.
Yeah.
I don't believe, especially, you marry somebody, people always talk about step kids, and a lot of times there's a difference in treatment. If I marry somebody, and I would expect them to treat my child the way they would treat their own. And that's what I'm going to do. Of course, be respectful, of that child, but of course be loving. I'm not going to go and get something for my child to eat and say, oh, well, he needs to feed his kid. A lot of times there's a breakdown in a lot of relationships and a lot of marriages. There are problems when their kids, when it becomes a blended family.
Yeah.
So I think if you're going to be, a wife and going to blend a family, it needs to be blended. And again, communication has to be key, whether husband and wife need to be on the same page. Even if you don't necessarily agree with something, that's something you need to work out, not in the presence of the kids.
Yeah, absolutely.
So.
I know all about the blended family life. I went from independence, me, myself, and I, to taking on a whole family. And so it's definitely more than a notion. As a woman, you have to be strong, you have to be dedicated, and you got to do a lot of self-reflection and self-awareness. One of the things I think, one of the things I will say about the book is that she does make us as Black women become self-aware of who we are, what we contribute, and maybe where we have to, again, it's 30 years later, but maybe where we have to take a hard, long look at ourselves, and think about what we put out in the atmosphere. I'm like you, Kim. I hate when I hear a single mother say "Happy Father's Day" to me, or take that away from fathers. Or I do not like. I'm not a proponent of all men ain't shit, or the same way that I'm not going to listen to all women ain't shit. So, but from our perspective, there are some things that we probably need to think about our past, how we were raised, how we evolved, so on and so forth, and what brought us to this point where we are very strong and independent and strong-willed, and it's hard to get us into the soft life because of how, our kind of our background.
But I think it's so hard for when you're talking about, just thinking about how you're raised. Some of us, or some people, they place their moms on this pedestal because, my mom knows everything. She cannot be wrong. And it's so hard to break with some of those ideals that maybe you did learn at home that don't suit you. Because I said it before, my parents are still married. However, Kathy and Jean's marriage is not Gina and Cameron's marriage. Yeah. Okay, I cannot treat Cameron like Eugene. It's not going to work. Right. I'm going to be fast out the door and to the court. Right. So I had to realize that we have to have our own marriage and what we want for our marriage. And then I have a bonus son, and I had him longer than I've had my own, children that I birthed naturally myself. So it was important to me to show him love, affection, relationship, marriage, that we're not going to fight and argue in front of him. We're not going to talk about things that he doesn't need to have. Because remember, there was that kids table and there was the adults table. Yeah. And so, you can't talk about the adults table stuff with the kid in the room. And so I think it sometimes you just have to break with what you were taught, even though it is so hard, especially when you love and you respect your mother. You have to sometimes break with those ideals because they're not going to suit each and every person and suit your marriage because your husband is not your dad.
That's right.
I certainly spent a lot of time as a single mom with my first set of kids. And I have never, ever, ever desired the hard life. I've never glorified being a single mom. Some women say, I got it, I can do it on my own. No, I have always tried to position myself as wifeable and wife material,
Yeah.
because I desire the soft life. And even now, as a wife, I find that my approach to my husband, it I want to receive his favor. Like, I like getting my gas pumped. I like my doors
Listen.
being open. I like my diamonds on my birthday and roses on my anniversary. So yes, I keep a peaceful home. Yes,
Yeah.
there is dinner fixed for him if that's what he desires. But
I
that,
picked that plate. Yes.
listen, yes, I think, and bring that
Listen.
plate down to, if he's watching the game, yes, I'm gonna crack that beer open, make sure he got whatever snacks he want, because later on I'm like, I saw this trip to the Bahamas that my girls are going on, and
Yes.
I just, I don't know what you think about it. Now I
Yeah.
done got out the shower, I'm smelling good, I'm all greased and oiled up.
Come on,
You know,
come on,
come
help
on.
me teach the people.
Listen, I desire the soft life, and I know how to position myself to get, and that's not manipulation, that's wisdom. I know what it takes to please
Wisdom.
my husband, and so I put myself in position to receive his favor. I
Yeah.
don't keep strife in my house. Do we have disagreements? Absolutely, but I can say that any time that we are in disagreement, we take that to our bedroom. It's the last thing that we discuss at night, just him and I, and then we get it out and we kiss and we go to sleep.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. Absolutely. GJ, what are your thoughts? You over there brewing with something.
No. I'm just listening to the ladies. I think, to your original question, what makes a good wife? I think one of the things is understanding what is your husband's desired, what do they respond to in regards to a love language? Not what is
Yeah.
your love language? That was something that was hard for me to understand, just because I was doing things thinking that I was making him happy, but what I was doing was basically fulfilling my own love language, things
Oh,
that
that's
I
good.
desired,
Yeah.
right? But
Yeah.
not really understanding what it is that he needs. So his was more verbal, positive affirmation,
Yeah.
that kind of stuff. Time, which was hard because I had started. Me and those, I started running marathons, and when you
Yeah.
run marathons, that means you might be out for 4 or 5 hours running training miles, and it's
Yeah.
you're running 20 miles. I'm not that fast of a runner, so I'm going to be out there for a minute, and that's time away.
Yeah.
So just understanding what was his love language. So like for him, it was, hey, I have meals prepared for you, so when you are gone for work, you have 3 or 4 days worth of meals, so you don't have to eat out. So his coworkers are always amazed at how much food he's got. And sometimes
Yeah.
he'll bring food home and I'll be like, did you not eat? Did you eat
Right.
out? He's like,
Yeah.
no, you just packed too much food. But so just, I think that's the first part, is just understanding what is that person's love language. What do they respond to? Not what do you respond to?
Yeah.
And I think that I also have a bonus child. That was the hardest thing that I had to learn to deal with,
Oh, yeah.
just because I didn't grow up as with any step. I guess I had half brothers, but I was too young. My
Yeah.
brothers were 20 years, well, about 15 years older than me. So, like, I didn't really see that dynamic growing up and
Yeah.
understand that dynamic. So, when I walked into my relationship, my stepson was 8, and I mean, it was the hardest thing that I had to go through, because dealing with his mother and how angry she
Mhm.
was, and then he was just at the verge of um, his hormones and everything. So he went from being very, very sweet to being a handful of a teenager with a lot of
Yeah.
anger issues.
Yeah.
He's, a fine young man now, but we went through hell. We went
Yeah.
through a lot, and I was really, really young, so there was a lot that I didn't understand that I had to grow into and really um, to learn the hard way. But with all that being said, and I think a lot of this ladies have already said it's not easy. It does require a lot of compromise and a lot of understanding, a lot of massaging egos. Men are a walking ball of fucking ego. And
Yeah, they don't like to admit that.
how
Yes.
to navigate sensitive conversation is one of the hardest things, but one of the most important things to teach our daughters, because I think a lot of marriages fail because people don't know how to have those very complicated, very sensitive conversations, whether it's what the fuck are you doing with the money?
Right.
And understanding, or career. Like
Yeah.
we get a lot of we understand that a lot of Black women are rising quickly in the works
Yeah.
in the workforce and white collar jobs.
Yeah.
I
They're
think
breaking glass
that book,
ceiling.
yeah, when that book was written, we were doing good if we were supervisor of the call center. Like that was great, but
Right.
we're now, we might not be C-suite executives, but we're making six figures, like,
Hmm.
and unfortunately, we know that there's a lot of Black men that are not on the same financial path
Yeah.
as us.
Yeah.
So that dynamic is
It's
hard as
hard.
well,
Yeah.
and it raises and it creates a different type of challenge as a parent teaching my daughters how to navigate those type of conversations and to encourage in their, and going back to that male ego, encouraging that young man to continue to grow in whatever craft that it may be that
Yeah.
they have, and not to just let him settle or be relaxed in whatever they're doing.
Yeah.
It's a really fine line. Like you want people to be happy where they're at, but it's very difficult when there's such a disparity in salary.
Yeah.
Um, and I think that that's also part of what's creating this schism, in this weird dynamic between Black men and Black women,
Yeah.
is how quickly we are growing and how do we have those conversations without coming off as stuck up and coming off
Yeah.
as, bougie. Because I'm going to tell you, my girls, that's all they know is the soft life. Like they, my 16-year-old, like stuff that I thought was fancy for me, going to Ocean's Prime, for her is like a birthday dinner at 16. Insane.
Right. Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
absolutely insane,
Yeah.
but that's what my salary and that's what her hard work has afforded her.
Yeah.
Um, so I don't. She won't know what to do with a young man who says, "Let's go to Applebee's for a date." She's gonna look at you like,
Or a 2 for 20. Right.
right, and
Nobody
that's.
will know 2 for 20.
But I see what I'm creating here. Like on
Yeah.
one hand, I'm proud of her. Like she's got a certain set of standards, but on the other hand, I know what the difficulties that may,
Bring
um,
later on.
yes, as she
Yeah.
starts dating, and she might meet great young men, but they're not going to be able to afford the type of life that and the type of lifestyle that she's used to. And those are very interesting and difficult conversations to have with her.
Yeah. I like what you said, and I kind of want to end on this kind of segment and discussion, but we have talked a lot today about social media impacts, and how they've impacted our young women and shaped their perspective, and women have evolved to this place where now it is making it difficult for men to take on relationships with them. In a lot of ways, I feel like traditionalism as it relates to marriage and relationships is dead, or a better way to put it is that we have evolved as a culture in such a way that we got to think differently about marriage and relationship. It may not be framed, we're from an era where and I say this all the time, and I had conversations with my bonus daughter about the differences between Gen Z, which is her generation, and my generation, which is Gen X. And there's a generation in between that, millennials. But it was so much different because as much as our mothers taught us to be independent and strong, there was still this sense of traditionalism that was taught to us that's not being taught to our daughters. And so how do we get to a place where maybe traditionalism is dead, but we evolve to this place where we still recognize the fact that as Black men and as Black women, we need each other. Like, what advice do we give this younger generation about what it takes to make a relationship, sustain a relationship, and quit this gender wars? You may not get a traditional woman that's going to be in the kitchen 5 days a week, because that's not where she's at. That's not what she's evolved to. She's a working woman. But how do we still teach them as women of wisdom, that what it takes to just have successful relationships in 2023? What are our thoughts about that? How do we reunite?
I will say it's important to have balance. Tradition is great. There are a lot of the, I guess you can say, old school things that still should be applied today, although there should be some changes. Just as you mentioned, my grandmother used to get up, she cooked breakfast, she made lunch, she cooked dinner, all of that. Now, if you work, I think it's unrealistic for a person to expect that, 7 days a week you get breakfast, lunch, and dinner. But I think it's important to, compromise. Again, if you can't cook, every day, put something in a crock pot, you can still have a hot meal and say, hey, I get up early for work, but on Saturday mornings or Sunday mornings, I'll make sure I cook you breakfast. I think it should be a compromise. And I also think on the men's side, they can't think of what the woman's role is. Like, okay, the woman needs to cook. Well, men can cook too.
Yeah.
Well, I think it's important to have that balance. And when we're raising our kids, we need to make sure that they understand there's nothing that's fixed, which means, that you can't change it. Again, you compromise, you cook a little bit, I encourage my daughter to be outspoken. I encourage her to speak up for herself, but I also encourage her to understand the importance of being respectful.
Yeah.
It's not what you say, it's how you say it. So I'm not going to teach her, oh, you just sit there and, just take whatever. But at the same time, know how to present what it is that you have to say. And when it comes to the money aspect of it, and I was going to chime in when Gigi was talking, because I originally said I was not going to bring up my ex-husband, but I have to. Because when it comes to, a lot of times when you meet a person, you meet the representative. And of course, it takes time for you to get to know. And if you find yourself with a person who has self-esteem issues, that's going to be a problem. I think we touched on it earlier today. If you don't get you together, it's going to create a problem. So a lot of women make, more money than their husbands, and that shouldn't be an issue, but a lot of times you have men, especially older men, who can't accept that because in their mind, they have that old school way of thinking, and they feel less than. Yeah. But I think it's also important for women to make sure that we, again, allow them to be the man in the relationship, where you don't throw that, say, hey, I want to do this. I can go buy it myself because you can't afford. You can't do that. But then again, like I said, you have men that even if you don't put that information out there, they know it. I mean, my ex-husband at one point in time wanted me to quit my job because he had issues with the fact that, I made more money than him. Yeah. And that was, one of the issues. But, just to summarize, again, there needs to just be balance.
It needs to be balanced.
It needs to be balanced. We can do the new school, but the old school still works too.
It still does. I think, as we talk about women who probably make more than their husband, make more than their men. We know that men have this innate desire to be respected and honored, and you got to stroke their ego. It's all about how you carry yourself in that making more money than them. You ain't got to throw it up in that man's face. It don't have to be a topic of discussion. As long as you are, bringing to the table and supporting the household and doing your job. Like, I don't, there's a feminine way that you can, even if you are the one that makes the most, that you can, you don't throw it in that man's face. It's not an issue. It's not, I make more money than you, so I get the bigger piece of chicken in the home. No, I may make more money than you, but my husband's gonna be my man. My husband is the head of this home. My husband is the first one to get his plate, or I'm gonna fix his plate, whatever the dynamic is, because traditional values still work. When you know your man, you got to get to know your man. You got to get to know what makes him tick, right? And then there are some men who just don't give it. Their woman making more money. That's just not a topic of discussion. It doesn't even matter to them. This is a partnership. We're doing this together. And so I think, Gina, you may have said it earlier, that everybody has to carry out their marriage, their relationship in their own. Is your own relationship, is your own journey, and you make it what it is, and you carry it out accordingly. Yeah. Anybody else? How do we reunite? How do we reunite as Black men and Black women?
I think you touched on it when you said we just have to recognize that we need each other.
Yeah.
And acknowledge that. And no matter in what sense the relationship that you're going to form, whether it's a traditional man and woman, just recognize as Black people that we need each other.
We need each other.
And we need to build each other up.
Yeah.
We need to support one another. We need to love one another through our challenges, knowing that there is so much out there that we come against on a day-to-day basis, male and female.
Yes.
That when I walk into this door, if I feel safe no other place, I should feel safe, loved, and supported at home.
Right.
And how do we create that space for the people that we love in our lives? I love what Kim said about compromise. We gotta find the balance.
Yeah.
I have a sister who, her and my brother-in-law have been together over 50 years. My sister has never cooked, and we don't want her to. We love her, but we don't want her to. My brother-in-law has always cooked, but that's what worked in their marriage, and that they communicated, and that's what they decided worked in their marriage. I love my husband. He makes some stuff that's good. I don't really,
I didn't see your plates, Lativia. I know what you do in the kitchen.
Yeah, he make a real good spaghetti.
Yeah.
And his breakfast is on point, but there's some stuff, the kids and I that we like, that you don't have to do that no more. You know what? I got it. Or the kids like, he's making chili, hurry up. So I'm trying to hurry up and get home before this chili is done so I can help the people. Because we don't eat it because we respect them, right? But there are just some things that as you go forward in your marriage, and someone coming from a position of someone role, and my husband is a blue collar worker. He's an electrical engineer, but he works in the steel mill. There has never been a time where my husband, I have ever made him feel as though he is not the man of this house and the head of this house because of my status or my title. That's my husband, and I always told him I'm not able to do these things without you. If I didn't have your support, I wouldn't feel the confidence that I have to be able to even go in that direction. And I let him be the man. Let's go, dude. I saw the cable bill was flickering this morning. So I don't try to step up and take over because I got it. No, I take care of vacation. Where do you want to go?
Yeah.
Wait, what are you going to do?
Yeah.
And certainly I can help him and support him. But I think that getting back to understanding that we need each other, and breaking that fallacy of I don't need no man, or I don't need a man, or I don't need a woman, and he can't do nothing for me. Breaking that fallacy, and when you say be real, be honest with yourself, everybody needs somebody.
Yeah. Absolutely. Leroy Banks says, beautiful ladies. And listen, y'all saying some stuff that some of the brothers like to hear. Listen, brothers, this is the difference between, this is what I don't understand. This is a whole nother conversation for another day, though, because we ain't gonna go. There are a lot of men our age or in our age group that are all about these young women. These young women, young women ain't having conversations like these. Okay, a lot of the younger women would be saying that we're pick me's, or things like that, or they don't believe in these kinds of traditional values as women, and so on and so forth. So I never understood men our age who are such proponent of dating these very young women with these mindset, who are listening to the Cardi B's and the Meg Thee Stallions, and so on and so forth, because a lot of these young women are not having these kinds of conversations and giving this advice to their peers, and so on and so forth.
And a lot those young women are temporary. The
Yeah.
older guys dealing with these younger women, because they maybe it's looks, because they wild and they do all of this stuff, but at the end of the day, are they marrying them?
When
No.
that thing loosen up, she's gonna be let go.
Right. Or when she has that baby, she go, so a lot of them are temporary. And I think for some guys, as they get older, it goes back to the whole ego thing, where they aren't very confident in themselves and they feel good because they can pull this younger girl. But a lot of times the younger women, their standards are very low. You don't have to do much. Like Gigi, these young girls, you can take them to Red Lobster and they think you doing something.
Yeah.
Or
their standards are very, very high. They're not willing to. One thing that I always did in my dating life, even before I married my husband, and even before my husband, I was always a proponent. If I like you and I'm into you, I'm going to date you back, right?
Yes.
You may take me out to eat, one time, 2 times, 3 times, but at some point I'm going to give that back to you as a man. I'm either gonna cook a meal, I'm gonna take you out to eat, or take you to something like that. And
Absolutely.
that, these ladies' standards are very high these days. Like you gotta come off some money, you gotta pay a bill, and we ain't even known each other a month. Okay.
Mm-hmm. Or they
Send
expect
a cash app.
I'm a mother of 3 sons, and my sons ain't paying for none of these little raggedy heifers bundles. Not their one. You hear me? You better have your own bundle money.
But that's what I was going to say. I don't think that we don't talk enough about what we teach our young boys.
Yeah.
Because we talk about how much we teach our young girls or what we should be teaching them, but we need to start teaching our young boys, young men. So I have three boys, and I talk to them all the time. Like my oldest, I try to instill in him Black love. And, I can't say that he's there right now because, we're in Florida.
Yeah.
And around my area is not a lot. But I still want him to understand and to know. But we have to teach our young boys that I want to give my kids experiences, not Jordans, not clothes, not that. I want them to have experiences so that then they can also show a young woman those experiences.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. Listen, ladies, we have had some good conversation. We are going into almost 2 hours of conversation. We could probably stay here for a long
time. And another thing.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, I do want to end here because I want to give each of you ladies, because again, this is the month of August. Is all about women of wisdom. Sometimes we won't always agree, and we don't have to always agree. Black women are not monolithic. We have different experiences, so on and so forth. So I want to end here. Melanie says, awesome dialogue, ladies. Often we as Black women, and we don't get enough credit for this a lot of times, we're the cornerstones of our families. We're the cornerstones of our communities. When Black women or Black men are, we saw this in the George Floyd case. When Black men are unfairly, unjustly treated, we are some of the first ones to come to their aid. We're the ones out there marching. We're the ones out there protesting. We see that in young ladies like Tamika Mallory and how such a strong activist she is. And so we have examples of that. It's a little bit different where we don't have as many examples of women of grace as we once had, but I still believe that Black women in particular are the cornerstones of our families. They're the corner, the matriarch is very strong in the Black family in particular. And so again, it's important for us as Black women to be women of wisdom. So if I could just go around, and you may have to think about it. I'm gonna give you 30 seconds of silence to kind of think about this. And we'll start with Gina and then go around. But what are some words of wisdom that you would give other ladies, other Black women in particular? What are some things that you would share from your own knowledge, what you've experienced, what you've learned as a Black woman? Doesn't necessarily always have to be about relationships with Black men, but it's something that they can learn about us. But what are some words of wisdom that you would share with other women?
I think just find your tribe. Get with like-minded women that you can support and that support you, because you don't want to be around people that really can't help you grow. And so just find those people that can help you grow and to become better and to also challenge you.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Gigi, what are some words of wisdom that you would share?
I think the words of wisdom would be stay true to yourself.
Yeah.
Set your boundaries, understand your boundaries, communicate them. Don't assume that other people know. And don't forget to smile, because a smile does a lot, not just for you, but for other people around you. I know that we hate it when people are like, man, why ain't you smiling? But I find that, we live in a world with so much going on and people are going through so much. And if there's nothing else that we as Black women have, is we have the heart and the smile of love. Like, we've been through so much, but our smile holds so much power, whether it's to each other and the kindness that's in our eyes and in our smile. So let's share it, because we're all going through a lot. There's just every day we're bombarded with so much. And you may not need to like hug everybody, but just a simple soft smile can do a whole lot for a lot of people.
Amen. I get that. Kim, what are your words of wisdom?
I'm going to try to condense this. First and foremost, you have to know your worth, respect yourself, and demand respect. You have to be careful with things that you say. You have to be mindful of the way that you carry yourself. That's something I tell my daughter all the time, because people see you when you don't see them. And there are people who know you in public that you may not know. So it's important. And a lot of times the first impression is often that last impression. Would also say, watch the circle of people. You have to watch the company that you keep. I stress this all the time, of course, and being in law enforcement, I saw a number of people, had a number of cases where just their association or the fact that they were present when someone committed a crime, they were just as responsible. So you have to know that you can outgrow friends that you have. I mean, you have friends that you had when you were young, growing up. And it's not that you feel like you're better than them, but if you're going on two totally different paths and you live different lifestyles, you don't have to judge them. You don't have to demean them. But it's important to decide, okay, this is not the person I want to hang around. There are a number of people that I knew, like in high school and growing up, where we lived different lifestyles. If I see you in public, I'll speak, but you can't hang out in my house, and I'm not going to hang out at yours. Right. So the other thing, take care of you.
Yeah.
Oftentimes, especially as mothers and as wives, we're always so focused on everybody else and making sure everybody else is good. But a lot of times we don't make sure that we're good. Take some
Yeah.
time, get a massage, get your nails done, your hair done. Take some time for you, because if you're constantly going, at some point in time, you're going to crash.
Yeah.
The next thing, be open and honest about how you feel.
Yeah.
When it comes to dating, especially communication, you will hear me say that all the time. Know what you want and be
Yeah.
honest about what it is that you want. If you meet a guy and you want to be settled, that first date, you should be having conversations. The way you start off is the way you're going to end up. Oftentimes, you sleep with the person right out the gate. That relationship oftentimes is going to be about sex, because you can't change the rules of the game after the game. And you can't equate the fact that this person is having sex with you with the fact that you guys are in a relationship. If you haven't clearly defined that relationship, you are likely in a relationship by yourself.
Come on now. Listen, it's some older ladies that need to hear that one, okay? Yes.
Yeah. Because of course, men and women, we look at things differently. A lot of times women will think, we're sleeping together, and so we're together. No, the guy's looking at it like, hey, you just somebody I'm sleeping with. And if he's single, and he, of course, considers himself to be single and want to date other people, he can. And a lot of times people need to understand that.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you, Kim. LT, what would you give us? What words of wisdom would you give us?
And it looks like Shantae and I were thinking in the same vein, because the first thing I was going to say is love yourself.
Yeah.
Love yourself. Love every version of yourself. Nobody is going to love you if you don't love you.
Yeah.
And if you don't love you, you can't expect people to love you. So love yourself. Love the you that you see. Keep working on your goals. You'll get there in time. Be patient with yourself. If you need help, ask for it. When we put up this strong Black woman and we can do it all on our own. There have been so many times in my life that I was tired, exhausted, almost to the point of breakdown, where if I had just asked for help, I could have gotten it. So that's something that I learned the hard way, but I don't mind asking for help, and not just from a man, from anybody. If there's something I don't know or if I need it, I'm going to ask for help. So, ask for help if you need it. And finally, I would say, love yourself enough to be healed, to seek healing. There are so many parts of us. There are things that we don't speak of, that we don't talk about. But get that taken care of. Love yourself enough to know that you deserve to be free and to move forward, so that you can be your very best self, not only for you, but for the love that you want to find in your life.
Absolutely. And our girl Shantae says, love yourself, forgive yourself, laugh at yourself. If you're single, learn to date yourself before your next relationship. Excellent, ladies. I'm keeping all of these nuggets. Such good advice. I'm going to throw my hat in there and just say, don't be afraid of what the mirror shows you. Okay. I use this analogy. I've used this analogy with my daughter. I call her my daughter-in-law, but my daughter, my bonus daughter, is that there was a point in time in my life that I was afraid to look in the mirror. When I would go out with my girlfriends, and you know how all the girls go to the bathroom and you're all primping and you're prissing in the mirror. There was a point in a period in time in my life where I could not look in that mirror. I didn't like what I saw in the reflection that was coming back at me. At some point, I healed. I learned to go through my healing journey. And so it's important to heal through our personal traumas, but it's also important to be able to look at that mirror and face the reflection that's looking back at you, and deal with the reflection in the mirror. All too often, sometimes we as ladies, we just want to chalk it up. This is how I am. This is how I was raised. This is, how my mother raised me. This is me. Love me or leave me. There is always room for growth, ladies. Okay. There is always, and the only way that you're going to get to a place of wisdom is if you take that opportunity to look at that reflection in the mirror and deal with that woman that's looking back at you. is self-awareness. We got to be self-aware. And so that would be my words of wisdom to Black women. Listen, ladies, this has been a very good conversation. I appreciate you ladies. Hang out in backstage for me as I wrap things up. But there was a lot of jewels and nuggets that were dropped on this evening. We could probably talk about this. The Black relationship, Black men under. But I hope that for the brothers that have checked in tonight, it helped them to understand a little bit better about us. We're not all against you. Some things is cultural and social in nature, and so there's a need for us to reunite and to just come together. Listen, we need each other. We've been impacted by the same systems. We've been impacted by the same cultural phenomena. We've been impacted by slavery. There's so much more that we could have gotten out of this conversation, but we don't have time. But we need each other, and so hopefully, more than anything, I hope that we got that out of today's conversation or tonight's conversation, that we need each other. And we are, come on backstage, Shantae, come on backstage, come on in, link on in, so we can have some behind the scenes discussion. So again, I thank you, Kim, LT, Gigi, Gina. I thank you for the conversation on this evening. I appreciate you ladies to the utmost. I appreciate the dialogue and what you brought on to this evening. And keep being the astounding ladies that you are. Keep teaching these younger women, letting them know that all Black women ain't bad. We ain't all angry and masculine and all of these like terms that they try to put on us and label us, and we're the reason why everything is failing. And yeah, that ain't all of us. Some of us are really stand-up women, and we are doing our our job to leave a mark on this world. So listen, ladies, hang out backstage for me. I will be there in just a minute there. And again, I just appreciate you ladies on this evening. Okay. All right. So I'm going to put the ladies backstage. I'm going to put them backstage on this evening. So this was some good conversation. Listen, Women of Wisdom August. Women of Wisdom August. This is what the month of August is all about. So I hope you enjoyed the dialogue on this evening. So next week we have another good topic. We have heard a lot about womanhood and womanhood being under attack. So we're going to tackle that. I got a whole new group of ladies coming by to have some discussion on next week, next Monday at 7:30 p.m., same time. We're going to talk about and dialogue about, is womanhood under attack? Is our womanhood as Black women in particular, or womanhood in general, is it under attack? We have some ladies that's going to join and have some conversation with us on next week. I want to remind you to follow me on all social media platforms. I'm on Instagram, I'm on TikTok, I am on Facebook, obviously, because that's where we're streaming now. I'm on YouTube. Please go and follow me at She Is Namia on all social media platforms. Stay abreast of some of the things that we are talking about. All month long, we're having these kinds of conversation. Women of Wisdom August. If you like what some of these ladies said on tonight, which I know you did because they was dropping jewels on. If you didn't take some jewels away on this evening, you weren't listening, okay? We got some more ladies that are going to drop some more jewels on next week. Again, go and purchase my book. It is called 7 Lessons for Her. It's all about healing, empowerment, and restoration. You can visit my website, namiacarnice.com. Let me put that website up and go and purchase my book. I am a first-time author. I appreciate your love and support. And there's some more nuggets and jewels that are dropped in here on about just some wisdom words for our young ladies. Yeah. Okay, so listen, I always end. I feel like I feel like we already got our lipstick affirmations. I usually try to end with a lipstick affirmation. And so the only thing that I'm going to end, I used to structure my lipstick affirmations, but I really like to just pay attention to the dialogue and what was said. And I think one of the most important things that was said on this event amongst all the ladies, that we need each other, okay? As Black men, as Black women, as women with each other, Black men need each other, families need each other, we need each other. And so it's important that we keep that in mind, that we all have a part to play in this. And so again, just recognize the important. It ain't always about a gender war. It ain't always what the woman didn't do and what her fault is. It's not always about men ain't shit and what they didn't do and so on and so forth. We need to do away with those mindsets. I feel like I'm glad I'm seeing a trend where a lot of that that's happening on these podcasts and so on and so forth with that promotes gender wars. I feel like that is dying out. And rightfully so, because it's not productive to helping us to heal as a community. We've all been impacted gravely by things. And so we just need to remember that we need each other. So take some time on this week until I see you again to tell somebody that you love them, that you need them. Just watch how you'll feel more richly and blessed because of that. Okay, y'all, I'm out of here. Smooches. I love y'all. Until we meet again on next week. Again, same time, same back channel. Smooches, y'all.
Thank you for joining She is Namia tonight for another edition of High Heels and Lipstick Conversations. We hope you have enjoyed the dialogue. If you like what you've heard tonight, please press the like or love button. The share button is free too, y'all. You can follow She is Namia on all social media platforms. And if you are feeling generous and would like to support High Heels and Lipstick Conversations, hit a sister up on her Cash App, $ She is Namia. I appreciate the love, y'all. Please know the views and opinions expressed tonight are those of She is Namia alone and do not necessarily reflect the views or positions of any entity she represents. Also, music was provided by Upbeat Creators at upbeat.io. Smooches. Until next time, y'all.